It's Hooptober time again. I made a video on this last year. Hooptober is an annual horror challenge on Letterboxd run by this user here, Cinemonster. And last year I made a video basically explaining and showing how I made my list, which I think is one of the most fun parts of Hooptober, following the criteria set out in Cinemonster's list. And I decided to do it again, even though I never made a follow-up video last year about how I found Hooptober or the films that I watched in it, although I did enjoy many of them. But it's really about the list creation, and I just decided to do the same thing again. So with that said, let's go down to the criteria for this year. They are here, and I have gone ahead and added them into a new list, and we're going to see how we can create the list together. So, there must be 31 horror films, of course, that's the name of the game, and we'll be watching them between the 15th of September and the 31st of October. They must come from 6 different countries, other than, this time, Italy or the US, and they must come from 9 different decades. Now, as with last year, I always leave these categories to the end, because you usually end up filling them in some other way with the other films that you've picked for the list, so that's what I'll be doing again this year. So the first category, therefore, is 5 zombie films. Now, I wanted to this year tick off some things from my watch list, and with that in mind, I went straight to my watch list, sorted by horror, and tried to see if there were any zombie films on there that I could get rid of, or basically put into this challenge, because you know what it's like with your watch list, they sit there for ages and you never end up watching them. And so from that, I have added these 3 films. Zombie Flesh Eaters, also known as Zombie or Zombie 2 in Italy, stylized as a sequel to another film, Brain Dead by Peter Jackson, and Wreck, the scary found footage horror. 3 zombie films that I've wanted to see for ages, and yeah, it'd be nice to get them ticked off. I then had a look around at other people's lists for inspiration, and I saw that a number of people obviously were including the Of the Dead series, so you have Dawn of the Dead, Day of the Dead, and so on. I have seen Dawn of the Dead and Night of the Living Dead, but I have not seen Day of the Dead yet, so I decided to add that. Of course, a Romero classic. And then the other one that kept coming up to me was the Nazi zombie film from Norway, Dead Snow. Because who doesn't love that concept? So those are my 5 zombie films, although actually, as it turns out, there will be more zombie films on this list. And I don't mind that, because that actually gives me some flexibility then. If I decide that I want to watch something else that I didn't put on my original list, I can always remove one of these and use one of the other zombie films that we're going to see later as the zombie criteria. So, moving on, we have 3 cult or conspiracy horror films. Now, this is one, again, this year I found the criteria a little bit harder to look up. If you look at my video last year, it was very easy to sort of go to a page where you could see all the films, you know, in one place. It's a little bit harder to do that with, certainly on Letterboxd, with something like cult or conspiracy horror films. So I had a look around online. I even consulted some Reddit threads from r/horror, and the ones that I've gone for are as follows. We've got The Conspiracy by Christopher McBride, which I believe is a kind of mockumentary initially about conspiracy theories that then becomes a conspiracy theory in itself. We have Society, the Brian Yuzna classic. I've heard so much about this one. Definitely one of the ones I'm most looking forward to on this list. Can't wait to see it. And then The Invitation, a more recent film about a dinner party involving a cult. My girlfriend has actually seen this film and said she enjoyed it, so I'm looking forward to watching it myself. The next criterion is one film from a black director with a black lead. Again, the kind of thing you can't easily search for on Letterboxd, but I decided to consult an IMDb list. This one here, Essential Horror Films from Black Directors, comes from the IMDb editors 3 years ago, and I just had a look on this list to see what I might enjoy. Blackula I have already seen. If I didn't say it at the beginning of this list, I always pick new films, films that I haven't seen before for my Hooptober list, even though that's not an official criterion. But yes, I've already seen Blackula and some of the other films on this list, Tales from the Hood and Bones, I did in previous Hooptobers, for instance. So I decided to go for this one, Ganja and Hess, which, although it has a 6.1 rating here, I think it actually has a higher rating on Letterboxd, which is, I generally trust the Letterboxd community a little bit more than the IMDb community. So I'm looking forward to watching that. It looks pretty dark, maybe a little bit upsetting even, but looking forward to watching that one. Next, we have one Canadian film, and I didn't really overthink this one. When I think of Canadian horror, I think of David Cronenberg. So I went to David Cronenberg's Letterboxd page, and faded out the films of his that I've already seen, and then went for the next horror, which is Existence. I think Eastern Promises is more of like a crime drama, although I'm sure it's got some dark horror-y themes, but yeah, thriller, mystery, crime. So I didn't go for that one. I have decided to go for Existence with its funky letter face there. Sci-fi, horror, thriller, action sounds more like what we want. And there it is. And also 1999, what a year for film that was. So it's always nice to add something else from 1999 because it's the most ridiculously stacked year pretty much in cinematic history. This next one similarly had some issues with one former Soviet state film. So he's listed out the former Soviet states here, and you could pick a film from any one of those countries. And I instantly was like, well, let me try and look at some of the smaller countries on here, or the countries with less established film industries, to see if there are any gems that I can pick out. But it was quite hard. I mean, looking through the list of like Kazakhstan horror or Azerbaijan horror, there's not a big selection, and how many of those films are really going to be available and accessible and with English subtitles and all the other stuff that goes with it. So it was a bit of a tricky one, but I eventually wound up going for Estonia, which is probably not a country that I've seen a lot of films from. And if we go to so this is letterboxd.com/countries, by the way, you can look at this, and if you go to Estonia and genre, sort to horror, and I decided to pick this first film here. Now, what I will say as well is when you look at Letterboxd films by country, you want to be careful that they're not international co-productions that are really like 99% one other country, and then, it's just been, had an executive producer from one country or something. So you want to check that it's actually from the country that you're looking for. So with this one, November, it's set in Estonia. The director is Estonian, so I'm like, okay, that's great, that's everything we want. So I'm going to add November to my list as my former Soviet state film. There we go. Next up, we have the most popular film from the 1940s that you haven't seen and can access. This is again something that can be searched quite easily on Letterboxd. You go to letterboxd.com/films and you can browse by decade. So we go to the 40s. And we go to horror, and I've seen Cat People, that was in last year's Hooptober actually, and The Wolfman. The next most popular one was I Walked with a Zombie, so there we go, another zombie film is going on the list, which is why I said that if later I need space for other things, or if I want to move things around, I could always delete one of these first five, probably Dead Snow if I'm honest, and use I Walked with a Zombie as my fifth zombie film. But for now, it goes under the 1940s category. Next we have two post-apocalyptic horror films. This was another one where I didn't really, it's a little bit hard to look it up, so I just kind of looked around. I looked at Reddit, I looked at Google, I just kind of saw what people were going for. Some post-apocalyptic horror I've obviously seen. I think I saw Threads for Hooptober last year. What a depressing film that is, by the way. Be warned if you pick Threads this year. But the ones that I went for were The Crazies, which again I think is like borderline zombie stuff, kind of infection-y outbreak stuff. So a lot of post-apocalyptic horror does have zombies in it. And the other one I went for, and I'm almost embarrassed to be putting this on here and admitting it, is I Am Legend, because honestly, how I haven't seen this film to this point, I have no idea. I was a huge Will Smith fan when I was a kid, and even though I was too young to watch I Am Legend when it came out, I remember thinking like, I'm going to watch that one day and it's going to be amazing. And it's always on television. Like, for so many times I remember seeing that it was on TV, but it had been like started an hour ago or something, and I just never got around to watching it. So finally going to put that to bed and watch I Am Legend this year. But again, that got zombies in it as well? I feel like it's like maybe a zombie infection thing as well, right? But anyway, we'll see. We'll watch I Am Legend this year. Next up, we have one film with dreams, or a dream, as part of the plot. And for this one, I actually just Googled it, and this is what came up. So obviously I've seen, and you can't fade by watched, obviously this is just Google, but I've seen the Nightmare on Elm Street films, I've seen Last Night in Soho, I've seen Malignant and so on. But one that caught my eye was this one, Come True, and I looked it up, and it's about a woman who takes part in a sleep study, so definitely dreams are going to be a major part of the plot, and I've decided to go for that. Seems like it was fairly well received as well, from just a few years ago, so I don't know if it will have sort of COVID vibes as well, will be like a microfilm or something, given that it's 2020, but we'll see. I'm looking forward to seeing Come True. Next we have one, The Animals That Pissed at Us film. So many great animal horrors. You can think of something like Cujo or Piranha or Tremors even. I guess Tremors is kind of related. But I've decided to go for The Grey by this guy, Joe Conahan. which stars Liam Neeson and is about a group of people trying to escape from wolves up in the Arctic. So that sounds fun to me. I suppose you can take umbrage with whether animals are pissed at people in these kind of films, or if it's just like, they're just hunting, they're just doing their thing. But to me, I see this as a kind of a man versus nature film involving animals, and that's what I've gone for with The Grey. Next up, we have one silent film, and for this, I actually consulted this BFI list here. The BFI do some great stuff, as I'm sure you know if you're aware of them. Some fantastic pieces about films. This is a very old list, as you can see, but it doesn't matter because the films are much older than that. So silent horror, and there were some good options on here, some of which I'd already seen. Cabinet of Dr. Caligari and Nosferatu being two of them. But I decided to go for this one, The Phantom Carriage, which looks very cool. A personal favourite of Ingmar Bergman's as well, who watched it at least once a year. So that caught my attention for sure. And it's also said to be in the vein of The Exorcist. So that's what we're going for. We're going to add The Phantom Carriage. Far and away the oldest film on this list for sure, from 1921. Next up, we have 4 films based on novels, and this I was actually able to look at through Wikipedia. This category on Wikipedia, category films based on horror novels. Now that doesn't necessarily mean, horror films based on horror novels, but I think it's, it can be kind of taken as read. And so I looked through this list. There's a great list here. Feel free to, pick your own ones from this list or from elsewhere. But the ones that I decided to go for were The Long Walk. This is because I know that this film is coming out this year. It's a Stephen King book originally, and it stars David Johnson, and I'm very excited to see it at the cinema. I always like to have a couple of things on my Hooptober list that I know I'm going to see in the cinema, because then you don't feel like you're wasting time at the cinema, if that makes sense. Because sometimes during Hooptober, if something comes out that isn't horror and I go and see it at the cinema, I'm like, oh damn, I could have been at home watching a Hooptober film. Especially if you're someone like me who struggles to complete the list in time most years. So it's nice to have The Long Walk on there, knowing that it's at the cinema. I then went for a version of Frankenstein that I haven't seen, obviously based on the Mary Shelley novel. I haven't seen the 1931 one, which is regarded as one of the definitive examples of it, and it's been on my watch list for a long time. I then picked The Ritual by David Bruckner, which is a film with Rafe Spall, I think, and another one that I'm excited to see. And lastly, Eyes Without a Face. Now, if you saw my video last year, you'll know this was on that video as well. I eventually had to drop it without affecting any criteria because I just couldn't. I just had other things that I had to watch. Something else came out in the cinema or something. I've been meaning to watch Eyes Without a Face for years at this point, like years and years and years. So I have included it on this list, and it's also on one of my other challenge lists for the year, the Criterion Challenge, which is a year-long challenge. So I now have no excuses not to watch this film, which I know is going to be up my street. I know I'm going to like it, and I just need to finally sit down and watch it. I don't know why I haven't to this point, but there we go. So those are my 4 films based on novels. Next up, we have any films from this list that you haven't seen. You're thinking, what is this list? Well, Cinemonster kindly provides a link to this list, and it is his favourite horror films, my favourite horror movies, or How I Stopped Fearing the Boogeyman and Embraced Him. Again, I faded the watched films and I just looked through. I think I basically just was trying to pick something that I already wanted to watch, because there's so many great films on his list. He's obviously such a horror connoisseur. And the one that I ended up going for was Killer Clowns from Outer Space, because I know that's kind of like a cult classic. A lot of people in the horror community are big fans of it, and it just seemed like something a bit different from everything else that's been on my list so far. Next up, we have one Ernesto Gastaldi written film, and Cinemonster often does this. He'll drop in a name of someone who is very prolific in horror, but who a lot of people, I presume, haven't heard of, myself in this case included. And it's always nice. I think he's so great at doing that and sort of widening our perspectives, which is one of the reasons that I love doing this challenge every year. So, Ernesto Gastaldi, if you if you search him on Letterboxd, you can find his page. As a writer, you can sort by horror, which is mostly what he did. And I've seen none of the horror films that he ever wrote. So I just decided to pick the most popular one. It's already sorted by popularity. Pick the most popular one, All the Colours of the Dark, which is a Sergio Martino film. And looking at his films, Gastaldi, they all seem to have a kind of psychosexual element, kind of giallo slasher vibes. I think they all have kind of similar themes in them from the look of it anyway. So I thought, you may as well just go for the most popular one and see if it's your thing, and that's what I'm going for. Getting through it now, we have one film from 1932. So again, if we go back to our decades screen, we can go to 1930s and we can click 32. It's already filtered to horror. I have seen The Mummy from 1932, but again, I just decided to go for the most popular, which in this case is Freaks by Todd Browning. Pretty good ratings and very short, so that's kind of a bonus. And that goes on the list. And lastly, a special one this year. I have never made a specific film part of this before, but The Wizard of Oz from 1939. Now, the reason this film is on the list is in memory of David Lynch, who, of course, we lost last year, sadly. And The Wizard of Oz was one of his favourite films, or his favourite film, and has influenced many of his works. I really want to watch that Lynch Oz documentary that sort of goes in more depth about why David Lynch loved this film so much and how it influenced his films. But for now, anyway, we're adding it to this list. Now, of course, I said I only do new films that I haven't seen for Hooptober. I'm pretty sure I have seen The Wizard of Oz, but I can't say it with certainty, to be honest. It's one of those films that is so just permeated in the cultural membrane. I don't know if I've ever sat down and watched it start to finish. If I have, it probably hasn't been since I was a very young child. So, whether this is a watched film or a new watch for me, I don't mind either way, because obviously it is such a classic and one of the most important films ever made. So, and of course, at the last, one Tobe Hooper film, there must always be a Hooper film. I went to the Tobe Hooper director page on Letterboxd. As you can see, a lot of his biggest films I've already seen, often in previous Hooptobers. In fact, Life Force, TCM2 and The Funhouse, I think, were all from previous Hooptobers, and probably Poltergeist as well. So, yeah, next up is Salem's Lot, but that's a TV series that was edited into a film, and Body Bags, which is a TV anthology film directed by not just Hooper, but John Carpenter as well. So I decided to go for the next film on the list, which is Eaten Alive, one of Tobe Hooper's early films. Just a couple of years after the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. As we can see, it's going to be about a killer crocodile, which sounds great to me, and so that is going on the list. So with all the criteria satisfied, now is the time to check that we've also satisfied these criteria, the 6 countries and 9 decades. So starting with the 9 decades, let's check that we've covered those off. We've got the 70s, the 90s, the noughties, the 80s, that's 4 already. The 10s makes 5. The 40s make 6, and the 20s make 7, the other 20s make 8, and the 30s make 9. So we are set on that. We have, I think, a film from every decade from the 20s to the 20s except the 50s. So unlucky 50s, no 50s horror this year. Next 6 countries other than Italy or the US. I will save you the effort that it took me to sort of click into each film and check, but we've got New Zealand from Brain Dead, Spain for Wreck, Norway for Dead Snow, Canada obviously for Existenz. Oh, I've just realised I skipped over a category. Yeah, I did. After the black director with a black lead, I should have put in one film from a Mexican or Central American director, and I fully skipped it. I'm sorry. That is in my list, and I got my my choice from another BFI list, so let me show you that. It was this BFI list, 10 great Mexican horror films, which came out earlier this year, and I scrolled through, had a look at the ones that I was interested in. I did actually watch Santa Sangre last year. That is a crazy film, if you want to include that in your list. Yeah, absolutely insane film. But the ones that I decided to go for was quite a recent one, this one, Huesera, the Bone Woman, directed by Michelle Garza Cervera. Yeah, seems very cool, something to do with pregnancy and patriarchy, and obviously nice to have a female director as well, because, many of us, including myself, always just kind of end up watching more stuff from male directors. Obviously, there is more films made by male directors, but it's always nice to have some female directing representation on the list, so let's get that in there. And of course, the category does say Mexican or Central American director, so feel free to pick another director, another country rather, from another place in Central America. But I just went for a Mexican director because obviously I know Mexico has such a great film industry, and it's having a bit of a moment at the moment as well. So back to the countries. I already said New Zealand, Spain, Norway, Canada. That is my Mexican film. We obviously have the Estonian film that you saw picked. That's November. Funnily enough, The Crazies is actually a film from the United Arab Emirates, surprisingly enough. I think it's a UAE-USA co-production. But if you go on like Wikipedia or Letterboxd, it does say it's from the UAE, so that technically counts as another country. Although I don't think it's set in the UAE or has any Emirati actors. But anyway, and we've got a UK film. We've got a French film, Eyes Without a Face. We've got a Swedish film. We're covered, okay? Don't worry about the countries. We are covered on countries. So with countries and decades covered, we now have a little bit of room to add whatever we want. Essentially, all the criteria is satisfied, and we've got 27 films in the list. So with the remaining 4 spaces, I have decided to add, and I always like when you can freestyle a little bit, as much as it is fun to follow the criteria. High Tension by Alexandra Aja, which is a film from the new French extremity movement, and so it's going to be very violent and sort of exploitation centered. But I have seen a couple of other things from the director. Cruel, which I really enjoyed from 2019, Piranha, the Piranha 3D remake, obviously, and Horns, which was that very strange Daniel Radcliffe film. One of the first things he did, as I recall, after Harry Potter, and really kind of, I remember seeing that in the cinema as a kid, as a teenager, and being like, wow, that was different, and enjoying it. He also did the Hills Have Eyes remake, which I have not seen. But anyway, we're going to go for High Tension, which is, one of his films from that sort of earlier period, his kind of breakthrough film, as it's described there, breakthrough slasher film. So we'll go for that. Next up, I decided to pick a couple of films that are coming out in the cinema and therefore that I'm probably going to go and see. So we've got The Black Phone 2. Loved The Black Phone. Loved Ethan Hawke as a villain. And it'll be nice to see him back as the grabber for a second outing. Didn't think we were necessarily going to get that, but really pleased to see that it got a sequel and that it's coming out. And of course, Him, which is Justin Tipping. It's a Jordan Peele produced film, I think. Looks like it's going to be an interesting mystery horror. Anything related to Jordan Peele is obviously always worth a look. So I'm pretty sure that comes out this October in the UK, and if it does, that will be something that I'm very, very keen to see. And last but not least, I went back to my watch list and was just like, what else that I've been trying to see for a while do I want to get on this list? And I decided to go for Tetsuo the Iron Man. This is, as many of you will know, a Japanese body horror, kind of metal as hell body horror transformation film that I've been wanting to see for a long time. It's also very short as well, which is a bonus, and it's another country to add to the countries. It's always good to have some Japanese representation on a horror list because it's such a strong part of their cinematic output over there. And this one is very much a cult classic. I did also for a while on this list have Ichi the Killer from Takashi Miike, because that's another one that's been on my watch list for a while, and I've enjoyed other stuff from Miike, but it didn't quite fit at the moment because obviously, as I said, it's 31 films, and I usually only just about complete the 31, to be honest. But if that's something that I decide to watch, as I discussed earlier, I could remove one of these zombie films, knowing that I've got other zombie films in the list. But for now, we'll leave that one for another time. And that's it. That is the list. So we have satisfied all the criteria. We've got some bonus films in there as well. Really, really looking forward to getting started. I have completed the list as follows. There is my completed list. Love this backdrop that comes from that first film, Zombie Flesh Eaters. Looks very sick. And yeah, I've obviously this is Hooptober 12, as I said at the beginning of the video. It's my 5th time entering. I've called it Hooptober 12, 12th Nightmare, 12th Night. All right, get it, 12th Night. Meh. And yeah, I'm just really looking forward to getting started. It does say that I've watched one because I have The Wizard of Oz marked as watched, but as I say, how long it's been since I've seen it, I could only guess. That is my username if you want to come and check out my list and give it a like. That will allow me to go and see your list and give them likes. As you can see, I've had this list published for a couple of days and it's got some likes already because the Hooptober community is so awesome. And of course, make sure that you tag your list with Hooptober and Hooptober 12. And if you are a pro or patron member, use the tag YIR 2025, Year in Review 2025, so that it appears in your stats page for the year, because it's always something that I like to look back on when I look at my stats. And that's it. Thanks again to Cinemonster for making this horror challenge and running it every year and doing such a great job. Good luck to everyone else making their lists. I look forward to seeing what you come up with and hopefully seeing your name on this incredibly long wall of the people participating. And yeah, happy watching and happy Hooptober. And who knows when I'll next make a video. Maybe this time next year or maybe sooner. We'll see. But thanks for watching. Bye-bye.